Let's get into it. Do you just assume Nikki Haley's going to leave this out and it's going to be Trump versus Biden all over again?
Yeah, I mean, it's about 30 days before South Carolina. She's losing South Carolina. At the end of the day, I do not think Nikki Haley wants to lose her home state that badly. I think she'll probably pull out. I think it's difficult for her to win the majority. But the one advice I'd give to President Trump, it's about addition, not subtraction. His speech in Iowa was much different than his speech in New Hampshire last night. And what I would do if I was him, I would draw Biden into the campaign. Because every time Biden goes out, he shows his weakness. Biden cannot fix his biggest problem, his age. Immigration has now overtaken the economy. And the problem here is for Biden is he created it. There was no new bill that passed that created this rush of people across our border. It is just his administration policies. So he doesn't need the House and Senate to work out an agreement. He can do this administratively. So he's in a really bad position. He won last time by hiding. He cannot hide. So if I was Trump, I would start pulling Biden out. I would make the issue. Remember, a re-election is a report card. Your first election is aspirational. What are you going to do? Now there's going to be a report card on what you did, and no president has walked into a re-election in modern history lower than this, even Jimmy Carter.
Well, the former president has got to do something about attracting independents.
Yes.
Any evidence that he can do that based on what you've seen in Iowa and New Hampshire?
You can, because the challenge is looking back home. You sit here and you talk about data, what's happening in Wall Street. Voters are going to be voting on the passion of what's happening on Main Street. And if you look at what those interest rates are for a small business to get a loan at 12%, nothing's happening. So that's not going to change that drastically between now and November. And they feel it. They feel inflation when they go there. They know what the price of gasoline is. They see the border. Think of this. There's not one Republican in Congress elected from Massachusetts, and Massachusetts has a state of emergency based upon the southern border. You're here in New York. What does the mayor and governor say? Their number one issue is immigration. What is Illinois, a very big blue state governor? He's crying, don't send any more buses.
So on immigration, with Trump basically now being the de facto nominee, is that going to paint the fact that maybe this deal can't get done? Because why would Republicans in the House give Biden a win ahead of November?
Well, if you're elected, you want to solve a problem. The hang-up isn't with Republicans. The hang-up is with the president. Will he change his administrative policies that he put in place, not by any vote? And he is holding back doing that. In the House, we have a very small...
I'm talking about the border Ukraine aid package, the supplemental that the Senate is working on.
Yeah. Let's talk border. Ukraine and supplemental is different. Do I think it gets done? I think it's very difficult. Every day that progresses, less likely. But remember, in the House, you passed a bill. When we were Speaker, we had a 4-seat majority. Well, we passed the strongest immigration bill, border security, that we've ever done. We haven't been able to do it when we had a 30-seat majority. And what you've watched, that sat over in the Senate, they have not acted. That's a Senate majority. The president hasn't taken any administrative action. You've got now the president even saying the border is not secure, something he hasn't said in a long time. He's got his own secretary saying something different.
All right, so if you think a supplemental doesn't get done, what about actually funding the government? How many stopgaps is it going to take?
Well, I think it's a mistake. Look, I did a continuing resolution to be able to solve this before the end of the year. The numbers are already there. If they continue where they are right now, and it's the far right, the Freedom Caucus of the Republican Party holding it up, you spend more money and you lock in Pelosi's policies. If they would just start moving the appropriation bills, do this now, they would spend less money, they would put more conservative policies in, and there would be a victory. So they need to focus in the next month to get that done.
Let's put the Freedom Caucus to the side for a second and talk about the main frontrunner for the Republican Party, Trump, and talk about some of his policies. Do you think that a 10% tariff, blanket tariff, is a good idea?
Look, the president has always been very open to think that America has lost in this. And I think he's changed the opinion of America when it comes to China. So that's not going to be the number one issue people are voting on. They're going to be voting on the economy, on immigration, on gas prices.
But a lot of businesses are going to be voting with their money. And they don't want to see that. They think that it's a tax on the U.S. consumer and that the person who's going to really experience it is the person who's going to Walmart, the person who's going to Target. Do you agree with the 10% tariff?
Look, you're thinking this is going to defeat President Trump going in. It's not going to defeat President Trump going in. The president he has an American first policy, whether you agree or disagree with it. He has transformed what you look at Republicans and Democrats looking at China itself, not to have an advantage over America.
When it comes to the general election, we already saw it yesterday. Kamala Harris, President Biden, they're out talking about abortion. How difficult is this issue for President Trump if he wants to win these independents in the 7 swing states?
Okay, you just talk about the rally they had to talk about abortion yesterday.
Because they want to make it an issue.
Yeah, so how many times were they interrupted during this rally about abortion to go after Republicans? 14 times. 14 times the president was interrupted in a staged event that he thought he could attack Republicans about something. This is why I tell President Trump, engage President Biden. Go to a campaign with him every single day, because his policies have failed. We've had 5 embassies he had to evacuate. We have war. We've got now the axis of evil like the 1930s. We've got inflation. You have all the things that Trump can say you did not have under his policies. So yeah, abortion could hurt, but let me tell you one thing too. Abortion was on the ballot last time when I was leader. We won 5 seats in California and 5 in New York. We won in Oregon. We won in Arizona. You've got to take the issue head on, but I firmly believe when the economy is this bad, when you've got immigration just strong, that outweighs the other issues.
The economy, a lot of people say, is very good. What do you mean it's bad?
Well, just what I made the point before. You talk about data and you say the economy is better. Go out to the American public. Leave New York and go out and listen to where the
on Friday so that people are starting to feel better about the economy. Michigan consumer sentiment. Gasoline prices in New York now below $3 a barrel.
It's $5 in California.
Well, that's also some state issues when it comes to taxes. You know that.
All right, there's homelessness everywhere you go. That's a Democrat-run state. People feel something they haven't felt before. If you look at a poll in California, you look at independents, think immigration is a #1 issue. Even Democrats, it's a 70-30. If you look at Democrats themselves, because remember, when you run for president, you want to bring your base and you want to expand it. Well, the majority of Democrats think President Biden is too old. If you want to talk data, if he gets reelected, there's a higher probability that he doesn't finish out his term based upon his age and the vice president comes in. She's not very popular for the ticket itself. You've got internals, people still talking about. You've got people who ran Obama's campaign openly saying, if he's on the ticket, we lose. You've got Democrats worried if they have to run under his ticket. You've got those who've run for president before saying you should switch him out. That's not strength going in. That's why I believe the sooner we get 2 individuals debating, it's a benefit to the country.
Well, let's see if even both of these individuals get on the stage and debate. But Speaker McCarthy, before you go, we have a few issues we have to ask you. One, do you think Speaker Johnson is going to get a motion to vacate like you were suffered and lost your gavel?
I don't think you can. Look, that was 8 Republicans. One person made the motion. It was 8 Republicans, so he had support in 94. But you watch what transpired after that. You went a month and you couldn't find somebody. And the top of the people who had the capability of doing the job got knocked out. So I think internally people look at that. And it was really based upon one member who moved it. He didn't want an ethics complaint to come forward. And I saw ABC yesterday, it's coming forward. So he's willing to disrupt the entire government to try to protect what he has done privately he doesn't want out. That's going to come out anyway.
I don't think enough people know your story. From flipping cars as a student to winning on the lottery, I think the first lottery, and buying a deli franchise. I think this is really important. Do you think that your party has left behind that traditional conservative vision of equality of opportunity and upward mobility? Do you think that the former President Donald Trump understands the essence of being a conservative in America?
Well, I think there's a debate about conservative, but I think he understands the entrepreneurship behind it. I mean, my story is, too. I grew up in the town of Bakersfield. Father, a firefighter, moved furniture on his days off. I didn't have money to send me away to college, so I went to community college, but I always had a work ethic. So I met a guy that had a car dealer's license. He happened to own a liquor store, and I paid him $100 to take me to the LA car auction, and I flipped cars. Now, it was illegal, but I didn't know it at the time. But I would go visit my friends who were away at college, and this weekend I was going to go to San Diego State, right? So I go to the grocery store to cash a check. The day before the lottery starts, so I buy a lottery ticket, and I win the lottery. Now, it's 1985. It's only $5,000, but this was before Biden inflation, so it was something, right? And so when I came back, I took my folks to dinner, and I took the majority of the rest of the money, and I take risk. I put it into one stock.
Yeah.
I made 30% on my money in 6 weeks. At the end of that semester, I took a break, and I tried to buy a franchise, but they wouldn't sell me one because I was only 20 years old. The other thing, I never give up. So I opened my own deli, not a franchise, and I did pretty well. And at the end of 2 years, I sold it because I wanted to finish college. I now had money to pay my way through college.
So I imagine you're not going to open another deli. What are you going to do now?
Well, the end of the story is...
Cabinet secretary?
No. There was the local congressman. He said, be an intern in Washington. I didn't know the man, but I thought he'd lucky have. So I applied, and he turned me down. But I ended up getting elected to the seat I got an internship for. Look, I believe the very best in America. That America is more than a country that's an idea. We need good people in there to serve. I will do whatever to help, but I'm going to go back to my entrepreneurial roots and
my
do some things
Bloomberg's
to help
lighting
the
up.
economy.
Got 5 seconds. What stock did you buy?
You know, it's back in 1985. It's called Furvault.